Hi, I'm Lieutenant Doug Nolte, and welcome to this edition of Behind the Badge, your behind-the-scene look at what's going on with the Wichita Police Department. Well, today I've got two very special guests, and I'm going to let you guys, Elena Kemp and Sarah Purcell, kind of introduce the topic for this segment. Why are you guys here?
We are here to talk about Call Quilts. We're in the process of becoming a nonprofit organization. It began September 28th, 2009, following the death of Deputy Brian Etheridge. My husband and I, we didn't know Deputy Etheridge, but being a law enforcement family for the last 10 years, just laying in bed that night, we were just very brokenhearted and felt like we needed to do something for the family. So we got in contact with his wife, Sarah, and were able to obtain his uniforms to make a quilt for her out of his uniform so that they would have a piece of him to wrap up in.
What kind of gave you the idea to use uniforms as a way to memorialize law enforcement officers that have died?
My husband and I, we met in the police academy and had always been a law enforcement family, and so we know uniforms are very precious to law enforcement, and we just thought with her not being able to fill his arms anymore, we wanted to give her a very personal part of him to keep.
Well, and I'll tell you, we've got some examples here, and you can see that not only are they very personal, but they're very well crafted. Tell us a little bit about the process that you go through in order to, create these creations.
We have a computer quilting program, and once we look at the officer down memorial page, and once we realize that there's been a line of duty death, we wait a respectable amount of time, and we contact the department and just let them know who we are, what we do, and what we'd like to offer to their family at no charge. And so they contact the family on our behalf, and if they choose it's something that they would like to do, then they ship us their uniforms. Once the uniforms arrive, we get onto that quilting program on the computer and just look at kind of the uniforms and what we have to work with and the patches. And then we just put something together. And with each different project, there's always that one that's just perfect after you've tweaked it a little bit. And there's always one that just jumps out at you, and that's the one you go with. So then we cut the pieces and assemble the quilts. We have a volunteer lady that has a quilting machine in Andover who volunteers her time to machine quilt them for us, and then we personally deliver them to the families.
Well, Sarah, obviously the loss of your husband is tragic. Tell us a little bit about kind of how you became involved after getting the quilt with the organization.
Well, basically the first time I met Elena was when through a friend, another police officer who had contacted me and basically said that there was a woman here in Wichita who worked for the Wichita Police Department and was interested in making a quilt of Brian's uniforms. And they had checked with the appropriate avenues, got the okay to do that. So it was within a couple days. She came over, and basically Brian was killed on his last day of work for the week. So most of his uniforms were in the dirty clothes. We just pulled them out. She did not wash them. And one of the neatest things, I think, when Elena delivered the quilt to me, which I might say she finished in, 24 hours?
4 days.
Oh, okay. Well, it seems really quick. It seems really quick.
4 days nonstop.
They brought them over, made one for myself and for our daughter, Natalie. And a couple of the patches were actually parts of the uniform pockets, and you can see where his name tag had been clipped in and still smelled like his cologne. We have washed them since then, but basically I always stayed in touch with Elena. What they did for me is priceless, and I'm so glad to have a piece of the uniforms as well as his workout clothing from the academy and some t-shirts and the patches. It's a really neat thing to have. And when Elena and Rob were going through the process of becoming a nonprofit organization, they needed a board of directors, if you will, I guess, and asked if I would be interested. And I am very blessed and consider myself honored to be a part of such a great organization. It's nice to be able to give back and help.
Well, I'll tell you, I know that a lot of people are probably wondering, how do you do it? Number one, how many families have you all served with Final Call Quilts?
So far we have made things for 19 families across the U.S. We've made things for people in Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Kansas, Missouri, Oregon, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Texas, and Washington, and we have several states at our house currently.
And that takes a lot of kind of planning. How do you guys go about the planning and organizing, And what, really, what can people do to help Final Call Quilts? Because it's probably getting some notoriety, some positive notoriety, but what can people do to help?
Gift cards to Joann Fabrics help quite a bit because it helps purchase the fabric that's needed to complete the quilts. We try to use only the uniforms that were sent so that it is, it completely comes from the things they sent us, whether it's uniforms or personal items. But then we also need the batting that goes in the middle and the backing to complete the quilts so that they can be machine quilted. Joann gift cards will buy supplies needed to continue to do this. Also, monetary donations help with the travel to personally deliver them. We never, ever ship them back in a box. We go and personally deliver them. We have flown about 17,394 miles and driven 3,621 miles to personally place these things back in the family's arms.
Sarah, when you were contacted, when you heard that Elena was going to come over and deliver it, what were your emotions? What were you feeling?
Kind of hard looking back to remember. Everything was such a blur that first week or so. But I do remember being at my mom's house, and Elena and Rob brought the quilts over and held them up for us to see, and I was pretty speechless. It's pretty amazing to see what they put together just from uniform pieces. And I slept with that probably for a good year every night on my bed, and Natalie as well with hers. And it's a nice piece that you can look at and remember them wearing the uniform. I think police officers wear their uniform with such pride, and he was so proud to have it that it makes me proud to have a piece of that to remember him by. So I hope that we can do the same for other families and reach out to them and be a source of help in a time that's pretty tragic.
Elaine, tell me, what's your greatest satisfaction in kind of from the concept where you thought, I want to do something, to you and Rob then kind of getting this project going to now it's gaining some speed. What are you the most proud of? What's been the kind of the fuel that's kept you going?
Shortly after we delivered Sarah's quilt to her, I got a phone call from her mom, which is one of the most precious phone calls we've ever received, just stating that immediately Sarah curled up with the quilt and that she slept with it. And just knowing that it brought her comfort and peace in the midst of her tragedy that quickly is exactly why we do what we do. These quilts are made not only in memory of the officers, but also in honor of the profession that they loved so much that they put others before themselves and were willing to give their life doing what they loved. They're also made in honor of the family who supported them every day as they went out the door to do that. The greatest satisfaction is just finishing the quilts and actually personally delivering them to the families, putting them in their arms physically, and then being able to hug them and just let them know we care.
I guess when we talk about, the moving forward and goals, Sarah, can you talk a little bit about what's the goal for Final Call Quilts? What are you hoping to have this become?
I think our ultimate goal would be to be able to provide the service free of charge to any and every family that suffers a law enforcement line of duty death during the year. On average, there's about 150 in the United States per year, and our goal would be able to have the manpower to contact all agencies after a line of duty death, offer the services, and if the family would like, be able to make the quilt and then hopefully be able to maybe deliver them to families in person at Police Week in May the following year, or sooner if we could locally. But just to be able to provide it for anyone that would desire to have one made.
That's a very ambitious goal, and hopefully one that through partnerships and working and getting the word out, because obviously you guys are fairly new to doing this and getting it out. So, well, to wrap up, talk to me a little bit about who's been instrumental in helping you launch this. Is there anyone that you'd like to give a thanks to and just say we appreciate their help?
We'd like to thank the Fraternal Order of Police here in Wichita. We went and shared with them in 2011 about what we do, and they supported us by donating some Joann gift cards that have carried us this far and provided the materials needed to make quilts for these families.
Well, I'd like to thank Elena and Sarah for joining me today and sharing kind of what you guys are up to, and we hope that 2013 is a great year. Hopefully you don't have to make too many quilts. That would be the ultimate. But if it's nice to know, and it's probably comforting to people to know that you're out there willing to do it to help. But we hope that the goals of the organization are met. And again, we just want to say thank you. We hope you've enjoyed today's edition of Behind the Badge, and we hope you join us next time.